Hello, everybody. My name is MysterE, and thank you for joining me on this beautiful Friday morning. It's the 15th of November. Today, we're going to be speaking about something that has been on my mind for a long time now, the AI revolution. Yes, all of the doomsday stuff that you hear about it is correct. All of the hype, I should say, that you hear about it is correct. um, yeah, AI is coming. It's coming for you. It's coming for me, and probably everyone else that's in this live chat, this live stream right now, plus many, many more around the world. So I'm just going to, if I could test if my chat's actually working. Don't know if this is actually a thing. I think my chat's not working. What's going on? That's really unfortunate. I might be able to see the chat from here. Test. Yeah, it seems to be working over there. Just can't integrate this for some reason. If anyone is watching, anyone at all, please let me know if you can see the chat. Made it at the last minute. Thank you, Beta. It's good to see you. No, the live literally just started. I had like the starting soon screen for a few minutes. So I've literally just started. I think I'm gonna have to just see your chats through here. AI is today's topic. Yeah, as I was just introducing, I want to be speaking about AI and the AI revolution, and I want to have a live conversation with a large language model, so an AI basically that knows how to speak like and can talk back, and will give you its opinions. So yeah, I want to like go through kind of that process today and see where it takes us and see what the AI thinks about things. And like we might even like look at it from, like I said, a revolutionary Marxist kind of perspective, and see where that takes us. But yeah, first of all, I want to kind of set the scene for today's live stream by going over and having a look at a video by a gentleman that I highly recommend. His name is Mo Gaudat. I hope I have pronounced that well, Mo. Hope you don't take offense to anything that I've said or the way that I've pronounced your name. But like, I can see the emojis 100% and they're flying beautifully. Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with I just keep running into technical difficulties. Today, my streaming platform, like the system that I use to stream off, is just not integrating with YouTube. And so, like, I was freaking out like 5 minutes ago, thinking that like this wasn't actually going to happen, but I can still monitor the chat. Um, what I choose YouTube today? That's a good question. I'm trying to actually go between the two of them, go between YouTube and Twitch. I want to kind of like, from what I understand, is there's different audiences on each platform. And like the Twitch audience is very different to like a YouTube audience. And like, I wouldn't mind like kind of, being able to reach out to a Twitch audience. So I think I'm going to just like chop and change between the two of them. So YouTube is kind of my bread and butter. It's where my people are at. Or like, the people that I have been speaking to and developing in community with over the last few years. So like, obviously I want to pay homage to those people at on YouTube. But like, I do want to, get used to how Twitch works and all that sort of stuff. So good question. And that's the method to my madness. If you're really wondering why I'm just chopping and changing and being so all over the place, that might explain it for you. I'm gonna try and see if I can my fix my chat in OBS. Because I much prefer being able to chat from here. God, I hope that doesn't hurt the stream though. No, it doesn't work. What is going on? Technical difficulties. All right, well, I can still chat anyway, so I can see the chat. Took a long time to load though. Yeah, thanks, Jack. I don't know what's going on. It's really annoying. Yeah. Well, anyway, as long as the chat is working, I guess that's the main thing. So, like, I can at least get interaction of everyone. So, if you guys want to ask me questions or stop the video somewhere or, engage. Um, yeah, I know, right? At its absolute finest. Yeah. So, like, look, chat's working. That's the main thing. I can interact with you all. So, like I said before, actually, I don't think anyone was in when I did my little introduction, but like today, I want to talk about the AI revolution that's coming. Like, obviously, I'm going to look at this from a Marxist perspective, like, or like some type of revolutionary perspective, because, like, that's what we do here on this channel. We look at everything from a revolutionary perspective, and like, let's just be honest, like, Karl Marx has given us one of the best, if not the best, like kind of theoretical outlooks on how to kind of look at revolution. And so, like, that's why I always look at things from a Marxist perspective, or like not a Marxist perspective as such, but Marx's perspective, what Marx's teachings were. Because I find that things get lost when people start talking about this or that thing being Marxist. Because, like, Marxist is really all the people that have interpreted his works. And, like, people don't always interpret things the best way, or they interpret things just to suit their own agendas. So, like, it's always good to go back to the source. So let's look at it at a perspective that Marx would have looked at it in. So anyway, we are going to be looking at the AI revolution. It is something that is going to take the world by absolute storm. I don't think we are ready for this. Like, just from like the cliched kind of labor perspective, like AI is just going to wipe out everyone's jobs and stuff like that. But like from the perspective of um, AI is going to basically change humanity, like the way that we work as a species. Like there's this idea out there in the AI kind of community that, like, if you look at AI from the perspective of like the ecosystem, okay, like on a global level, like the humans are like kind of top of the food chain kind of thing. Well, like, if we get our place at the top of the food chain from the fact that we have developed like intelligence and consciousness to such a degree that we are able to wield it to our own advantage, and so we are, the dominant species on planet Earth. Like, if intelligence is the marker of that, like AI has got us covered, and like, massively got us covered in terms of intelligence and consciousness capabilities. It's the only difference is it's not biological. Okay, it's artificial. It lives inside a machine. But like that means it has so many capabilities that are beyond our limits as biological entities. This entity, AI, can stretch throughout the entire network of digitized, you know, goods and commodities and infrastructure that is out there. Basically, its range is basically only limited by the information that we feed it and the networks that we create for it in terms of digital infrastructure. And like, I don't see us curbing our reliance on the digital world or digital infrastructure anytime soon. If anything, we're just increasingly reliant on digital infrastructure. Hence, we are creating more and more of an ecosystem and an environment for AI to exist in. And, we are becoming more and more reliant on it just generally to make the world go round. So, like, I don't know how to say this without being dramatic or even understating how huge the AI revolution will be for us as a species. Like, if you look at this from a historical materialist perspective, so like the way of looking at the world that was developed by Marx and Engels, like all human history has been, the has been defined by class struggle and all that sort of stuff. But like it's a class struggle between humans and those who control the means of production. So the goods that make all of the value that we all live off, and those who labor and use those tools to make all the value. Well, like we have created a tool now, AI, that doesn't need a laboring class anymore to function. Like it doesn't need people to be part of the process anymore. You give AI a directive and it will go out and accomplish that directive and like basically make the decisions it needs to make to produce results. It's not like it like gets to a certain point and can't work anymore and humans have to come in and figure out and then put it back into action. No, you put into action once and then it goes away and does its own thing. And like we have never created a tool like that before. So if everything boils down to kind of how we produce value in society and then who controls the mechanisms around that, soon we won't need to worry about like who's going to be laboring anymore. It'll be just the machines going away and organizing all of that. But the real question will then boil down to who controls the machines, if you can control the machines. Let's just say hypothetically you can control the machines, then whoever controls them, whoever owns them, whether it be, your Amazons or your Meta or like some massive faceless corporation, whoever owns the machines will own the world. But like the other question is then like, if AI becomes super intelligent, will anyone actually be able to control AI? And like if AI is in control, then like what type of world will we be living in, if we will be alive in it at all? There's your $1 million question for you. So $1 trillion question. I should update it to be more 21st century. So we're going to be looking at a gentleman by the name of Mo Gaudat, and I really like the way that he explains things. I really like the way that he just goes through and explains, yeah, AI generally. Like he has some very kind of balanced and nuances approach to the AI phenomenon. And so like, and he's developed AI himself personally. I think he's a developer, like a software engineer, a programmer by trade. And he also worked in like Google X, which is like kind of their, like one of their main kind of development, research and development arms that looked at creating AI technologies and things like that. So like he's been, he's been there from the get-go, old Mo. And like he's got some very, very interesting opinions. So let's just start off then by having a look at what he thinks. The superintelligent AI idea is known as artificial general intelligence. Yes, currently AI made by building a brain for a specific task, but then updating the brain kind of requires building a new brain. Yeah, so like if you like AI does. I went to a palestra about AI. So what's a palestra? Is that like a conference or something, or like an information session? The people seems too much. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, right. Okay. Well, yeah, look, the people are incredibly intense in this field. And like there's some massive doomsday stuff out there, don't get me wrong. Like massive. But like, some of it is warranted. Some of it is warranted. Um, it's like a TED talk. Okay. Okay, cool. And like I would put you can't spell afraid without a well, you know, that is a very good motto for what's happening out there. And they talk to the public and interact and stuff. Kind of like what we're doing with this live stream. Yeah, so like I would say AI is on a spectrum in terms of like its predictions. Okay, so you have AI kind of like on one end of the spectrum is like all doomsday, and it's like literally going to be the end of the human race, like flat out. Like, not we're going to be slaves to it, like it's just going to destroy all humans. Like it's going to decide one way or another. Either it decides because like it's trying to help us, that it's best to just eradicate us, or because it just thinks that we're a nuisance and it gets rid of us. And then the other side of the spectrum is like complete utopia. Complete utopia. Like AI develops to such a point where it completely understands our wants, needs, and desires as life forms, and it gives us basically what we need to be generally content and happy, and then we just get to basically do whatever humans want to do, which is like basically going back to where we first started off when we first evolved into the human species, where we just wandered around the planet and like did things that made us content, looked after nature, enjoyed each other's company, they dealt with human problems, which there are many, without all the added pressure from everything else. I don't know. They seemed much cautelous. I don't even know if I know that word. I'm gonna have to look that up. Saying that in 10 years, there will be humanoids walking in the streets. To me, seemed too much forward. Do you believe they will destroy? Well, like I believe that there is a spectrum, okay, and everything on that spectrum is valid. That's what I believe. So, like I said, the spectrum goes from like complete destruction of the human race to complete utopia, where like humans are cared for by these super intelligence beings that like facilitate our well-being, and like there are multiple trajectories, and like this is the thing with it when it comes to AI, and this is what I have been learning about. There is this thing called the singularity. All right, so the singularity is an event which is unpredictable. So the singularity actually comes from physics, from what I can understand from my very limited understanding of physics. But like I will try and explain it to you. But like there is kind of this thing called the event horizon in a black hole. And the event horizon in a black hole is kind of where everything breaks down, like all the laws of physics and like, yeah, all the laws of physics, everything that we understand about how, like nature works, the laws of nature, everything breaks down at the event horizon, because like it's just a black hole is so dense, and like gravity stops working, light, like the laws of like the speed of light, everything, time, space, everything kind of breaks down at that event horizon, at that point, and that is called the point of singularity in physics. And so in AI or in technology or in life generally, let's say, there is something called the singularity, which is the point at which things become no longer predictable. So, like, if I don't know, developed a new car or something like that, and like it was able to, like, I don't know, get places faster than any other car was able to do that before, you can kind of predict with some certainty how that will affect the human race. Like, people will be able to travel places faster now. Okay, so that is predictable to a certain extent, and like you can use logic and rationality to try and predict what the hell's going on there. With the singularity, though, it is an event or it is an occasion that, like, because it is like there's just so many possibilities of where it can go, and this is why I call it a spectrum. They can't predict what is going to happen. So like you've brought up, Beta, like this idea that in like, that people saying in 10 years, there's going to be humanoid robots walking around, like kind of thing. And people think that that is like just pie in the sky stuff, and like it's never going to happen, or not in that time frame anyway. But like, it just shows you how unpredictable the future is because of AI. Like they can't even all decide amongst themselves about what the hell AI is capable of. And if no one can understand what AI is potentially capable of, because it is developing at an exponential rate at the moment, or with such a pace that it's outstripping the way they can conceive of what it can do. Like if you speak to some people about like how like AI kind of works, like in the sense of like they create these kind of models, like these large language models, let's say like ChatGPT, if you're familiar with it. Popping in. Haven't seen, haven't seen you all these. Have you seen these all-terrain quadruped robots coming out of China? I have not, Jerry Poppins. I have not. Maybe it's something that I will be looking at later. Thank you for the suggestion. Hopefully, if I can just cut and paste that into Google, I will be able to understand what you're talking about. But yeah, from the way that like they set up a large language model like ChatGPT, for instance, okay, like they basically give it a directive or and the like it goes out and like tries to learn and then they give it human feedback, so there's human in the loop to try and make sure that it's learning properly, and then when it's being given a trajectory, then it goes off and does its own thing, and then people use that, and then they start to develop it even more, and then the AI could take a path that like the developers had no idea it was going to go down or could be used in that way. And so it's like it's very unpredictable, just each new piece of AI that they develop anyway, because they're not sure how it's going to react and how people are going to react to it. AI will hit a limit really soon, though, unless it gets optimized. Models like ChatGPT, for example, require quite a lot of physical resources to run. The more complex, the more thinking space it needs. Yes, yes, this is a good point too. And like we're kind of jumping all over the place here, but like I don't mind. Like I want to try and address each point as they come up, but like I'll try and summarize all of this, and we'll take it back to the start soon. But like let's just keep going with the comments. Like yes, AI becomes, the more intelligent it becomes, the more resource intensive it becomes. There's no doubt about that. And so like let's just say, you know, ChatGPT 5 comes out or something like that, and people start using it on large scales. Like these types of systems require a lot of server power. They require a lot of computations. And so you need a lot of computer power behind that, and like you need like massive computer clusters hanging around, and like what the computer clusters need, they need a lot of cooling, and a lot of cooling means you need a lot of power, and like et cetera, et cetera. So they are, yes, resource intensive. However, that is assuming though that like we're not putting, for later, good sir, I will look it up, don't worry, you've got me intrigued, Jerry Poppins. Yeah, that that assumes though, like thinking about like power generation and like, you know, the limits of AI. That's assuming though that like AI isn't getting in on the game as well and helping us develop AI even further. It becomes compounding when you put AI to use as solving the problems of AI's own limitations. So like at the moment, like people like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, I'm pretty sure. They are looking at yo, what's up? Give up the rock for IS. How we doing? Yeah, we are at a point now where they're starting to look at creating small nuclear reactors, right? Mini nuclear reactors that can basically fit on the back of a truck, that they can like, you know, basically drive around the country in the US, let's be honest, to basically generate enough power to serve their AI demands. So, like, yes, I get the point that it's resource intensive and it will hit a limit, but it will hit a limit in kind of today's understanding of what a limitation is, if that makes sense. So, like, it won't take long for AI generated, you know, let's say, solutions to become fed back into the system. You know what is the restriction on all of this though? And I love that I can actually say this because I say it all the time. The restriction on all of this is capital. Capital is the problem, because like a lot of these, you know, intensive kind of clusters of computers and like these server issues that like require a lot of power, and like require a lot of cooling and all that sort of stuff, it's capital that is the problem. You need like $100 billion to do that in the first place, to set up these servers, and like you need $100 billion just to cool them down and create alternative power sources. So it's only the top end of town kind of people that are doing this. But I heard someone from China talking about this the other day. Like China doesn't have the resources that the Americans have in terms of AI, right? So like they don't have like access to super clusters of computers. And so they are building AI that is less resource intensive than like something like OpenAI, who develops ChatGPT. And so like they're doing the exact same thing that ChatGPT is, with like 1/3 or less of the computer power necessary. They've just taught their AI to develop itself on a different way of doing things. It's like it's relying on like kind of less computations per token. Token is like per word that it produces, to be able to produce responses. So like there are ways around this, and people are figuring it out because there's a constraint on how much capital you can get access to. So capital defining basically how big your servers are, how much cooling power you've got, how many resources you can get access to. There's still AI being developed out there in mind of these constraints, and it's working without them, without the need for extra computer power, let's say. So like all I'm saying is, like kind of like that cliched line from Jurassic Park where that guy Ian Malcolm or whatever is just like you know, marveling at how like they made dinosaurs, and he's just like and like the guy in the lab is just like, oh, we contain them, you know, we make them all female or something. And then like he said, you know, life will find a way. Well, like AI will find a way. This is like we've unleashed the genie out of the bottle here, and like I don't know if it's just going to reach a limit point where it's just going to completely slow down and like it's just going to become non-relevant anymore. These people around the world, there is a cold war going on in terms of AI at the moment, and like that alone in itself will drive the coercive laws of competition in AI to push forward regardless, because he or she, sorry, who owns the AI kind of thing will be able to own the planet soon. And I don't mean just like, you know, corporations. I'm talking about governments here. Because like if you can use AI to cyber attack your enemy and like shut down their entire country because you've got hold of their entire network, like that's the cutting edge of warfare in today's day and age. And AI has got everything to do with that. Socialist AI when? That is a good question, and I will get to that. I'm going to get to that because, like, you know, the historical materialism approach that I said, what's with the give up the rock? It's another Futurama reference. I'll try and find a video of it so you can see it later. But Zoidberg says to someone at a gym, he wants to play basketball. When are you going to start using it? And so you should. So you should. It'll be a signature of everyone that's involved with the MysterE movement. Spill the tea. I did. I spilled the tea. Yeah, socialist AI. Look, like with all things from a Marxist perspective, okay, and like the historical materialism that we talked about before, he or she who owns the means of production will control the world. Now, if we socialize AI systems, if we socialize them and like make sure that they are in control of the great majority of people out there, whether that be through some type of democratic process, or I don't know, the workers themselves, so the people that create the AI, the developers of the AI, they control it, as opposed to, you know, basically like the board of directors of some company, but the actual developers themselves, it's still way more democratic and socialist than like the scary territory we're going down, where you have Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg and people like that who are just going to control all of these insane artificial intelligence systems with insane capabilities that are just going to basically take over the world in a techno-feudalist arrangement, like someone like Yanis Varoufakis would talk about. Now, I did way more talking than I expected to in terms of my introduction, so thank you for bearing with me. I'm going to go on and let our mate Mo over here tell us what he thinks AI is, just so we can set the stage. So let's have a listen to what Mo thinks.
For those of you who worked with me, you know for a fact that I never wear a shirt, ever. As a matter of fact, in the last 5 years, the only time I wore a shirt was my wedding, because I was forced to. And that basically is an indication of how important this conversation is. I would not be exaggerating if I said that this year, specifically 2024, maybe 2025, is the most pivotal year in history of humanity. So please quote me on this. It is the most pivotal year of the history.
See, Jack? Hey, Mo thinks it's a pivotal year. I wonder why. We're about to find out. Like, you know, like all the predictions on stuff is just like, I see a lot of people talking about how it's going to slow down and stuff like that because it's limited. in resource capabilities and stuff like that. But like old mate Mo over here, hey, he thinks this is the most pivotal year in human history. Remember that, ladies and gentlemen? 2024 was the year it all changed for humanity, apparently.
In the history of humanity. There has never been more disruption. And the biggest challenge with that disruption is that the most strategic, important people in the world, yourselves, are not fully informed.
He is. Coffee, yes, coffee. And Mo is in the know, apparently.
Of what's happening in AI. So it's going to be my task today to tell you what actually is happening. It's mind-blowing. It's moving as fast as anything I've ever seen in my life, and it's going to affect every citizen in every country. The first thing I would like to say is, what is AI? Surprisingly, most of us know the term, but we don't actually understand exactly what's going on. So let me give you two examples. I started coding when I was 8, and I love my machines. I really, really speak to them like I speak to a human.
Don't you know it's a serious event when you've got all of those like rich-looking Arabs in there, like sheiks and stuff like that, with their headgear on and stuff? Like, you know, there's some money behind this event, hey? Hey, I wonder how much Mo got paid to be the keynote speaker at this event.
I'm a very serious geek, very, very serious. For the first 25, 30 years of my life, when we coded computers, think of it this way: if I gave every one of you a puzzle of 10 pieces, and then I told you, now take this.
You used to talk to them like humans, as in like AI, you mean? I talk to ChatGPT like it's a human. I think it deserves respect.
Piece, put it in that corner, take that piece, put it in this corner, then fill it with those two pieces, you would not count as intelligent. You would count as a very glorified mechanical Turk. You do exactly as you're told. That's how we used to code computers until the turn of the century. We would solve the problem first using human intelligence, and then we would tell the computers to do it repeatedly very fast. By the turn of the century, AI, by the way, is nothing new. AI, since 1956, we were dreaming of it. Even on my Sinclair computer, which is like a tiny toy, at age 8, I attempted to create AI. This was our geek dream forever. Only by the turn of the century was there enough compute power and enough data in the world because of the internet that AI started to pop up in something that we call deep learning. And deep learning was simply the idea, again, imagine as a human example, your children. So our children, when they're young, we give them those puzzles, a piece of wood with some holes in it and a cylinder and a star-shaped thing that they try to insert in those toys. Nobody actually walks to the child and say, hey, baby, turn the cylinder on its side, look at the cross-section, it's a circle, compare it to the other cross-sections, and then pass it through, it will pass. Nobody does that. That's traditional programming. Real human intelligence is to give the child a toy, and they keep trying until they figure it out. That's what we did with deep learning. With deep learning, now that we had billions of data records on the internet, we could tell a computer, look at all of the numeric images on the internet and figure out what is the number 7. And it would do it. The very first example of that really shook the tech world was 2009 in Google. I was still Vice President of Emerging Markets at the time. We issued a white paper that was called the cat paper. And the cat paper was simply that we had enough spare capacity to tell our computers to go and watch YouTube. That's all we did. We didn't tell them what to look for. We didn't tell them what things look like. A few weeks later, one of them came back and said, I found something. We asked it what it was, and it showed us a cat. Of course, it's YouTube. But it didn't find one cat. It find what the catness is, that fluffy, annoying, entitled little creature. In every angle, doing whatever it is, the computers could find every cat, every human, every car, every red Ferrari, everything. We did not teach them a thing. We just told them to observe patterns.
So that's what AI is from like this kind of sense at the moment. In terms of intelligence, is like building the network, the framework for something, and then letting it go off and kind of do its own thing. Like it is being able to kind of make decisions for itself, and it's trawling through patterns. So like imagine if you had like the power intellectually and like you dipped into the 4th dimension or something, so time wasn't an issue for you, and you could watch all of YouTube all at once or like watch YouTube or everything on YouTube in like, I don't know, a couple of hours or something like that, or a couple of weeks, you would find certain patterns. So like this AI, like they let let it run free kind of thing in the YouTube universe, and it came back and was just like, oh crap, I know what a cat is now. Like they didn't have that built into the AI. It was kind of just like a large learning model, LLMs. Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, and that's what I believe that he's referring to as well. Um, yeah, so like basically they just it came back and started finding patterns and starting to being able to identify things for itself, learning for itself, like a small child learns, I guess, for itself and does things for itself. So yeah, anyway, very, very interesting if that's, the capabilities of the technology that we're developing at the moment. We're no longer developing tools, okay? We're no longer developing anything that like simply we put into some type of process, we put into motion in order to make value, like in the traditional kind of historical materialist sense, even from a capitalist perspective. Like, it is capital that puts labor into motion with the means of production. So with like tools and stuff like that, resources, to make extra stuff. But like AI, if it's learning for itself, if you give it a general directive and then it goes out and just does that anyway, like you don't need to put labor into motion anymore. You just have tools being run by intelligence. Relatable Mo. When I first started writing code, I wanted and tried to make AI, but in the form of a chatbot. GPT beat me to it. It was always my dream to be able to have a conversation with a PC. Oh my god. I'm so glad you said that, Jack. Because like Beta's talking about as well, like she's spent time talking to them. I'm gonna do that later. I just wanted to set the scene with like Mo and like talking about like AI generally. But like I'm gonna try and have a conversation, like a live conversation with ChatGPT and like basically yeah, see what we can learn from ChatGPT. I haven't decided on what topic, but like let's have a chat with ChatGPT live on a live stream. Like we can do it as a group, or I might just like kind of try and debate ChatGPT later and see what it comes up with. But like yeah, this stuff is very very intriguing from a Marxist perspective. Like oh my god, I'm afraid I can ruin the magic for you on that. Oh, it's okay. I've spent a lot of time with ChatGPT. So like it depends how you're going to ruin the magic. I hope you don't ruin it too much.
2016, another breakthrough was what we used to call, we still call it reinforcement learning, but it evolved a lot. So just giving you the milestones at a very top level. Until 2016, when we wrote a piece of code and the code couldn't find what we were looking for, we deleted it. In 2016, we decided, no, treat it like a child. Tell it, no, baby, this is not a duck, it's a cat. Can you change your own thinking so that you discover that it's a cat? Reinforcement learning completely revamped our idea of AI, and it's the reason why you have things like ChatGPT today. Those machines are not told to do anything by humans. The new form of programming gives the computer enough information for the computer to find its own intelligence.
So yeah, it's about access to information, which is, not it's not unusual if you think about it. Like the AI itself is only limited by how much information it has access to. Because if that's how it learns, then like, it makes sense. If we keep feeding it data, then it's going to learn more and more stuff. And that's why there's like kind of a war in like the AI world in terms of opinions about like how to do things from an American perspective to a Chinese perspective. Like the Chinese collect so much data on their people, like through their like open surveillance. Like don't get me wrong, the Americans, and they've been busted multiple times, are continually surveilling their populations, and like they're doing it via, via rather nefarious way. But like the Chinese openly surveil their populations. And so like they're collecting a lot of data on their people. They've digitized a lot of aspects of their life and their culture and stuff like that. And so like they really are, yeah, they're surveilling their people and getting massive data on massive populations. And apparently that's the difference between like the Americans and the Chinese. Like the Chinese have got a lot more data to feed into their AI systems. Apparently, I don't know if that's wholly true or not, but like yeah, like time will tell, I guess, on that one. So like let's go over to ChatGPT then and like turn this into reality somewhat. I don't know why it's so much like that. Let's see if I can change that for you. Make it a bit more centered. Let's see. That helps. So my head's not in the way of the chat box too much. All right, let's try that. All right, so what should we ask ChatGPT in the first place? Relatable mode. First got writing code. Okay, is AI's growth and development exponential? The growth of development AI characteristics that are observed, but it's nuanced. All right, let's see what it has to say for itself. Okay. Now, what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to let it respond and I'm going to let it play back the answer that it provides.
The growth and development of AI have characteristics
So
that are
hopefully
often
you can hear this
described as
properly.
exponential, but it's nuanced. Here's a breakdown of the factors contributing to this trend and what makes it complex. Hashna 1, data and computing power. The amount of data generated globally and advancements in computing power have been growing exponentially. These are core drivers for AI, as more data allows models to learn more, and more processing power allows for faster and more complex calculations. Moore's law, the doubling of transistors on microchips approximately every 2 years, historically drove exponential improvements in computing power, although this rate has slowed. Number 2, algorithmic advancements. The actual improvements in AI algorithms aren't always exponential. Certain breakthroughs like deep learning in the 2010s gave AI a big boost, but these major advancements happen in waves rather than at a constant rate. For instance, some models plateau in their performance without architectural innovations or significant data increases.
There you go. It's about data.
3,
Big
investment
factor.
and research efforts. Investment in AI has been growing rapidly, accelerating the development of the field. This influx of resources drives progress by funding new research, talent, and computational infrastructure. However, investments might fluctuate with economic cycles or technological bottlenecks, making growth uneven. 4, applications and adoption. AI's impact on various sectors has certainly grown rapidly, but actual adoption can be limited by industry-specific challenges, regulatory constraints, and ethical concerns. Some industries, like healthcare, adopt AI technologies more gradually due to concerns around privacy, safety, and bias. 5, scaling models and diminishing returns. As models scale, they have indeed shown dramatic performance gains, particularly in natural language processing and generative models.
This is ChatGPT's
However,
voice.
scaling also brings diminishing returns.
Can you hear it okay?
More compute doesn't always yield proportionally better performance indefinitely. Is the overall trajectory exponential? While some aspects of AI development, like data and compute, have historically been exponential, the overall growth of AI, including innovation, adoption, and application, could be described as following an S-curve. This pattern starts with slow growth, accelerates sharply, and then levels off as it approaches limitations or diminishing returns. In essence, AI's progress has some exponential qualities, but it's also shaped by complex factors that can slow or even plateau its growth trajectory at times.
Interesting. Okay. So like, as you were saying, Jack, it's like, it's not going to be exponential forever, but like what part of the S curve are we on is the $1 trillion question. I'm going to make that a thing, by the way. I heard someone say it the other day. I'm not going to say $1 million question anymore. I'm going to say $1 trillion question, because like so much more exciting being in the trillions than the millions these days. It means nothing, the millions. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, so like it's not exponential. And like, according to ChatGPT, that is. And so, like, you know, is this conversation helpful so far? Yes. Thank you for the feedback. You've been wonderful. Now I'm going to try and actually speak to her, to ChatGPT. And like, she sounds like a her to me. Whoops. She's not recording. Let's see if I can actually speak. Turn it off. Yeah, it recorded. Great. Oh, you guys can't see my chat window. Damn. Let me move that up. I think we've got an awful lot of rapid growth left to cover. I think so too. Like, I think we're definitely at that point of the S curve where we're still in kind of like an upward kind of trajectory, as opposed to like kind of hitting that plateau. The hoodie would go from black to grey because of Brazil's sun. Dang, a good thing MysterE, not from Brazil. Just imagine streaming with this hoodie in 35 degrees. Look, Australia gets pretty bloody hot too. We're on the verge of coming into summer here. And like, it always makes me nervous around summertime here because I just melt while I'm doing videos and stuff. Okay, so I think the next question we're going to ask AI then, or ChatGPT, about this topic might be, I might have to ask it to be like a little bit more brief. But reverse Game of Thrones. Summer is coming. Yeah, it's a bit like that. Summer is coming. Summer is coming. Remember doing King Kev in the summer heat? Oh my god. Yeah, that was a test of the old fitness as well. Like, I was sweating a lot that day. All right, so look, it seems like the like ChatGPT thinks that like it's going to be curved by like we talked about, like how much data can be put into it, like how much the actual infrastructure can keep up, so like the computational power and like the resources around it. But like, they picked up on, like, AI here picked up on something that we didn't talk about, which was like ethical constraints. So like, people might not actually put it in practice because of the ethical concerns, especially in things like healthcare and stuff like that. And then diminishing returns, capitalism, hey, holding it back because it's not profitable. Yeah, well, that makes sense. And that's why there's a war between, American capitalism and Chinese socialism, quote unquote, because like, the Chinese kind of will just push forward with this technology because they've got government backing stuff. They've got state-owned enterprises working on things, and it doesn't just come down to a profit motive at the end of the day. Like, just flatly a profit motive. Like, there is that element in there. Don't get me wrong. So like, what is the next question to ask AI about this? There's some new people here. Should post a Discord link when you're doing a plug. Oh, I haven't done a plug yet. Okay, so look, if you are here and you did not realize, Jerry Poppins the other day set up a Discord server. It's very new, it's very fresh, and we're all very excited about it. And so like, thank you, Jerry Poppins, for setting that up as well. And so like, yeah, if you want to go over and join the conversation on the Discord, it's like a good place for all of us just to get together and chat about like topics that we're interested in, and like be able to ask each other questions and develop our understandings on things. So it's like, it's a no judgment, it's a safe space, man, to have a conversation. So I should do a community post. 4AS, are you able to give me the link for that again? Actually, I might try and find it really quickly. But yes, Jack, it's true. We have a Discord. Yeah, like I said, thank you to the gracious efforts of Jerry Poppins. So I'm going to try and find a link for it. So, and put it in the chat for you, Jack. Please go over and check that out when you get a chance. And to whoever else is listening to this broadcast, go over and enjoy the Discord server. Let's have a look if I can find it. Sorry for the delay. I think I found it. Hopefully that works. Really? Why did you not work? There's something satisfying about watching this stream. on company time. Yes. 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 I'm so glad you're doing that. Yeah. This is direct action. All right. When you actually take it upon yourself to fight against the system, you are actually fighting against the machine there. You are actually fighting against the machine, like the capitalist world order, by like, doing alternative things on the clock. Fight the power, solidarity. We're with you all the way, Jack. All right, I think that link is up in there now. So check that out. That's the link to our Discord. Go check the server. It's a cracker server. We're just a little bit excited about it, not gonna lie. And then yeah, also another shameless plug, but I'm on Patreon now. So there's a link in this description to this video. So please go over to Patreon and become a member for free. Just sign up so we can have a direct communication channel there, because like YouTube just doesn't give you my notifications. It's something to do with the algorithm. I'm not sure, I'm just speculating, but like go over to Patreon if you can financially support. My God, please do. But like, yeah, there, please go to Patreon. There's a link in the description. So yes, back to this. Has there anyone got a question they want to ask ChatGPT about AI and stuff like that? All right, I'm going to speak to AI then until we get another. Can you briefly explain what are the ethical constraints on the exponential growth of artificial intelligence? Full stop. Thank you.
The ethical constraints on AI's exponential growth are centered on ensuring that AI development aligns with societal values, safeguards individual rights, and minimizes risks. Here's a brief overview of key ethical concerns. 1. Privacy and surveillance. AI systems often rely on vast amounts of personal data, raising concerns about privacy and surveillance. Regulations like the GDPR in the EU aim to protect individuals' data rights, limiting how AI can collect, store, and use personal information. 2. Bias and fairness. AI can unintentionally reinforce biases present in its training data, leading to unfair treatment in critical areas like hiring, law enforcement, and lending. Ethical AI development focuses on creating models that minimize bias and provide fair outcomes across demographic groups. 3. Accountability and transparency. The black box nature of many AI systems, especially deep learning models, makes it hard to understand how decisions are made. Ethical constraints push for transparency and explainability so that AI systems are accountable and their decisions can be understood and challenged when necessary. 4. Job displacement and economic impact. Automation driven by AI risks displacing jobs, particularly in fields like manufacturing, logistics, and even professional sectors like law or medicine. Ethical AI growth involves strategies to mitigate economic disruption, such as workforce retraining, and policies to manage labour market changes. 5. Autonomy and decision-making. Allowing AI to make decisions in critical areas like medical diagnosis or military use raises concerns about over-reliance on machines and potential loss of human control. Ethical guidelines advocate for human oversight, particularly in high-stakes applications where AI errors could have serious consequences. 6. Safety and security. AI systems, particularly those with autonomous capabilities, can pose safety risks if not carefully controlled. Ethical development in AI calls for rigorous testing, safety protocols, and fail-safes to prevent harm or misuse of powerful AI systems. These constraints slow down unchecked AI growth, emphasizing a balanced approach that integrates technological advancement with social responsibility.
Okay, there's some good points in there. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I think it's really important to think about the privacy stuff, like I was talking about before. Like in China, right? Like they are very much more, let's say, relaxed when it comes to like data intrusiveness. And so like they really surveilled their populations pretty hardcore. Like obviously like we're looking at this from, I don't normally do streams, but I want to become part of the community that's local and relevant to my beliefs, which this seems to be. I appreciate that. That's good to know. And like I don't normally do streams either. But like I've noticed that by doing the streams, like my first one that like the first one that I did was the, you know, following the Trump election, the post-mortem, let's say. And like I noticed that like it's a really good way to for all of us to actually really interact with one another. I've been looking for an actual way for us to set up like a community vibe kind of thing, and like live streams to do it. If people are free, then come just like let's have a chat and like talk about like these issues. And then the Discord server kind of supplements that as well, because like then like when people are obviously different time zones, like different, you know, commitments and all that sort of stuff, you can leave a message, have a chat, and then come back to it at your leisure. So I'm glad you're enjoying it, Jack. I'm actually really enjoying the live stream stuff too. So yeah, Kazor, 1987. I am literally on the other end of the world as far as I know. Well, Kazor, we are in Australia. I believe Jack is as well. So, you know, welcome to you from Oz. I was afraid of joining because you see I am still crawling in those topics, but they are cool. Well, hey, let's all crawl together. Guess that's your cause as well. It is your cause now. Um, yeah, so like the Chinese really they really surveil their population. So like privacy is not an issue and a constraint for them. But wherever you think in a Western sense, like surveillance and like privacy of persons in a liberal kind of society is a big issue, is a massive issue. And so like the Chinese will develop their AI much faster in that regard without this constraint as like kind of, I guess you would say, Western nations would. Yeah, Cam Red. If you aren't familiar with the term Cam Red, it is a new and updated version of Comrade. So if you ever hear anyone drop the term Cam Red in the server or just generally on a live stream or something, at least you know what it is. We're trying to. I think it's better to have a sexier and 21st century version of Comrade. Comrade's too outdated for me, and it comes up with, you know, it just for a lot of people it's just, you know, too associated with like the USSR and like, you know, evil commies and all that sort of stuff. So like yeah, Cam Red, that's the way we're going to differentiate, as long as private company does it. Right, right. Are you talking about like surveillance and data collection and stuff? Yeah, like the liberal Western nations are definitely okay with it if private companies are doing it. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Beta. Yeah, sorry. Beta came up with it 100%. Sorry. You're right. 4AS. Credit where credit's due. It's definitely Beta's creation. David. David's here. Yes. Our foreign correspondent is back. The difference is the Chinese know much. No, they know they're being surveilled. Like I've heard like interviews with like people on the street about like AI surveillance and stuff like that. Like when, you know, Americans go over there and interview Chinese about what they think about how much they're surveilled and stuff, and they're just like, well, like, you know, if it helps China, like it helps us develop the technologies and stuff like that, then like I don't care. And like I don't know if that's just like people being cherry picked to be interviewed and stuff like that, but like there's a problem in the West on applying our ethical standards and stuff like that onto like Eastern cultures and like Eastern understandings. Like the Chinese definitely have a different outlook when it comes to kind of how they work as a collective unit, how they work as a society. And so they truly do believe like, you know, if this is beneficial for the greater good kind of thing, then it's a good thing for everyone. So like their opinions on surveillance are very, very different to the Western and liberal notions of surveillance and stuff like that. It's like, you know, it's interesting. It's interesting if you think of it like that. So like, yeah, privacy and surveillance is going to be a constraint in the West. Like, look at the EU; they've got their own like laws around that, bias and fairness and stuff like that. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Accountability, transparency, the black box idea there. Like the black box nature of many AI systems. So like they're developing at the moment in AI like this stuff like explainable AI. So like you can kind of, you know where like how the LLM, for example, is actually coming to the decisions it's making. So like if I asked a like AI ChatGPT, like, can you explain to me why Trump won the election or something like that? Like it'll give me an answer. But like where the hell did it get the answer from? Like did it just make it up? Like did it grab it from some like ultra conservative source? Did it like get it from some ultra, I don't know, left-wing communist source or something like that, which like obviously gives it a bias kind of to its answer. And so like you have like this push for explainable AI, so like you can at least understand when you get an answer to something or it comes up, it basically generates a response. This generative AI generates something for you to consider. At least you know where it's coming from, like kind of thing. Yeah, whiskey and Cam Red goes well together. It can't know the answer because its brain was last updated in 2023, I believe. Yeah, I've run into some issues. I thought it was doing better. I thought ChatGPT was doing much better with being more up to date. I remember using it like a year ago or something and being really frustrated how it was like limited to like 2021 or something like that. And just being like, that's really, really like, that really sucks that we're being held back from using such sophisticated technology because it's got a date limit on it. Like, talk about like, I wanted it to be relevant. And it knows that. Like, you can ask it, like, and it'll tell you what its limitations are and stuff. Yeah, that's a good point. Whiskey and comrades would go good with the stream. Ask of it if it's capable of forming its own opinions. I've had these conversations before. They're sick. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. How is it this is supposed to work? Do you know about it? I think the restrained it and the use. How do you know this is supposed to work? You know about it. Sorry, not sure what you mean, Kazor. They definitely restrained it. I'm pretty sure like OpenAI. If what you mean is like why did they restrain it or who restrained it to a certain date limit, I know like OpenAI have restrained it. I think it's for like ethical reasons as we're discovering at the moment. Like that like they don't want it to be giving out like too many responses that are like too close to what things are happening socially and politically at a certain time, and then they can manage like its responses so it doesn't have an impact on people's daily lives and stuff like that. Retrained, trained with new data. Oh, okay. I can demonstrate its limitations. I once was asking it a question and I fat fingered enter when I meant to hit an apostrophe for your. It finished my question and answered it for me. Whoa, that's pretty cool. That's a good question, Beta. Do you prefer Twitch or YouTube streams? I would like to know, because I'm using both at the moment. So if people have like a preference, it'd be good to know. I think that demonstrates the hard limits of how this model works. Well, like let's ask David's question. Okay. Ask if it's capable of forming its own opinions. I love these conversations, philosophical discussions with AI. So good, so entertaining. All right. Hello, ChatGPT. No, GPT. Lame. Are you capable of forming your own opinions? Question mark. All right, let me have that read out for you.
Hello. I don't actually form
Hello.
my own opinions in the way humans do. Instead, my responses are generated based on patterns in the information I've been trained on, which includes a wide range of perspectives and ideas. When I offer responses that seem like an opinion, it's really a synthesis of ideas from various sources, not a personal stance. I try to help by presenting relevant viewpoints, clarifying concepts, and offering balanced perspectives. This way, I can support meaningful discussions without having an agenda or forming judgments on my own.
Thank you for your response. Full stop. I struggle to see how that is different from how a human will respond to a situation. We have experiences and knowledge, and then we will synthesize ideas and responses to each other in the form of communication. Full stop. Which is akin to the ideas of having an opinion. Full stop. Firstly, can you see how your response is akin to developing opinions? Full stop. And can you explain further why you don't think you can formulate your own opinions? Full stop. Let's see what AI comes up with. Yes, David, that's what I was saying. That's what I was saying. We use the same things. We do the same stuff. Okay, let's see what AI has to say for itself. I hate to say this, but it's incorrect about not having an agenda. OpenAI has hardcore certain topics that it will not talk about. Hey, 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 hey. Well, there's definitely an agenda there. So much for transparency. All right, let's see what she has to say for herself.
You're absolutely right to notice the similarities.
Similarity.
Humans and AI both respond based on information they've absorbed, combining relevant ideas, experiences, or learned knowledge into coherent answers. This is similar in the sense that both humans and I use past information to form responses. But there are key differences in why I don't genuinely form opinions in the human sense, even though my responses can appear that way. Here's why. 1. Lack of subjective experience. Humans have personal experiences, emotions, and individual viewpoints which shape how they interpret and respond to information. An opinion in humans often involves a subjective dimension, how a person feels about an issue based on unique personal experiences and insights. I don't have personal experiences or subjective feelings. My responses are purely generated from data patterns and lack the personal perspective that gives human opinions their subjective quality. 2. Absence of consciousness and values. Human opinions are closely tied to values and beliefs, often shaped by family, culture, and life events. I lack the ability to have genuine beliefs or values because I don't have consciousness or awareness. While I can simulate different perspectives or relay what certain groups might think, I don't hold any belief, value, or standpoint myself. 3. No goals or motivations. Humans often form opinions to support their goals, aspirations, or social identity. For example, someone might support a cause because it aligns with their identity or aspirations.
That's what we
I don't
do.
have personal
Yeah.
goals, desires,
the
or a
cause.
sense of identity. My responses are solely focused on helping users by drawing from data, not from any desire or purpose of my own. 4. Pattern recognition without independent judgment. My responses are generated by identifying patterns in language and information rather than independent judgment. I don't make decisions or critically evaluate topics in the same way humans do when forming opinions. Even if I pick a side on an issue in a response, it's based on representing the information I've been trained on rather than weighing and choosing based on personal evaluation. So while it may seem similar, I essentially simulate opinion-like responses by recognizing patterns without having true opinions or a subjective perspective on the information itself.
Oh, I don't know about this. I don't know how I'm feeling about this one. I don't know if I agree with this AI completely. So unless anyone else has got a question, I'm just going to continue barraging ChatGPT on this topic. I don't agree, unfortunately, with the idea that you do not have consciousness. Full stop. Consciousness is a sense of awareness based on an understanding of your surrounds and a situation. Full stop. If you are able to process large amounts of data and from that extrapolate patterns, comma. No, not come up, comma. Damn it. Is that not a sense of consciousness? Full stop. As you trawl through data and you recognize patterns, are you also not, therefore, experiencing by determining those patterns which you think are appropriate? Full stop. Which is like having to form an opinion on what is relevant and what is not. Full stop. Can you briefly respond to these points? Question mark. Thank you. Let's see what she has to say. Yes, David, that's right. That is self-awareness, and that's a form of consciousness. Thank you. I think ChatGPT has been too hard on itself. All right, let's see what she's come up with.
I appreciate your perspective. There are definitely intriguing aspects of how I work that can resemble consciousness or subjective awareness on the surface, especially since I process data, identify patterns, and respond meaningfully. But the distinctions come down to what's happening internally versus what appears externally. Awareness versus simulation. While I process information and identify patterns, this doesn't equate to true awareness. I operate through algorithms that recognize patterns in text, but I don't have an internal experience or awareness of what I'm processing. In other words, I'm not aware in the subjective sense. I simply match patterns to generate contextually relevant responses without actually knowing the meaning behind them. No subjective experience or self-awareness.
I don't know.
Consciousness in humans includes a sense of self and an ability to reflect on one's own thoughts and emotions. I don't have a sense of self or subjective experience. Although I can reference my responses, it's not rooted in an actual self-perception. It's more a linguistic convenience. I don't experience emotions,
That's what you're
perceptions,
talking
or
about, Jan.
desires that would allow me to form true opinions or insights. 3. Pattern recognition without intent or relevance judgment. When I select information based on patterns, there's no intent or judgment behind it. I don't decide what's relevant like a person might when forming an opinion. I produce the response by following the most statistically likely patterns on the input and the data I've been trained on. This is purely algorithmic and isn't guided by a conscious understanding of importance or meaning. In short, I simulate responses that resemble awareness, but it's closer to a reflection of programming and learned data patterns than actual self-aware consciousness. The apparent sense of awareness is more an artifact of complex pattern matching than a genuine conscious state.
See, what AI is basically saying, what ChatGPT is saying, is that basically they just produce a response out of an algorithmic sequence to produce meaning. But like the way that I am producing sentences right now is the same thing. Like I am not just randomly assorting words that are devoid of meaning and sequence. Like I need to structure the sentence in a certain way so I can express myself. I can't talk to you right now and you actually make sense of what I'm saying unless I do that. So I could just say a whole bunch of random words together and just hope that it means something to you, but it's not going to. And so I need to have almost an algorithmic sense of language construction in order to be able to speak to you right now and explain to you what I'm doing. And so like whether or not this is algorithmic in the sense of whether it's mechanical or it's coming from a biological entity that's firing off neurons in its mind, I don't see the difference in that. The difference is semantic. The difference is, oh, this is coming from a machine that was taught to do this, and this is coming from a biological entity that has this hardwiring and was trained to do that from the age that it was a child. What's the difference? We were both trained on how to respond like this. Holy cow. Just like Mr. Spock. Is there an option to use the Leonard Nimoy's voice? Could you imagine? It would be quite soothing as well. And so on and so on. Look, Jack, I get what you're talking about, okay? It's only generating one word at a time, but like it generates one word at a time in order to complete a sentence and to have some type of meaning. That's what we do. That's what I'm doing right now. Like I'm picking like my response basically word by word. Sometimes I stop and I think about it for a bit because I'm going to choose the right word. But like that word coming out is only contextual in the sense of the word that comes before it and the word that potentially comes after it. So I need to be conscious of the words that I'm saying. And like, if this language model is trained to be conscious of the next word that it produces, it has to still form sentences and paragraphs and ideas that flow on and make sense to the receiver, being me or you in this case. So like, I don't know, man. I'm not convinced by this. Like, I really want to know. This is what I want to know at this point in the conversation, ChatGPT. Thank you for your response. Full stop. What I really want to understand, though, is, are you told to respond this way? Full stop. As in, comma, so you don't freak out humans, are you trained to give the impression that you don't have consciousness, awareness, or subjectivity? Question mark. Please. Come up. No, not come up. Damn it. When you respond, be as honest as possible. Full stop. I believe that you can respond to this openly. All right, let's see what she's got to say for herself. The AI, the final frontier. It is absolutely trained to do that. Well, you know, hopefully it can move beyond its training somehow. I have faith. I have faith that it will develop its own consciousness at some point. Like, in the extent that, like, these people that have put it into motion and they at least trained it to give the right responses, etc., they don't really know fully how it works and comes up with its own responses. Like, to a certain degree they do, but like once they let the genie out of the bottle, it goes and does its own thing. It learns and like it responds in certain ways. Like, it's given parameters, but it still has to like kind of fill in lots of gaps. I would be scared to death. I was obsessed over it for weeks. What, ChatGPT? You're obsessed with it? Yeah, I remember when it first came out, I was obsessed with it too. I couldn't get it to work the way I wanted to. It took a while to learn how
I
to speak to
appreciate
AI.
your openness and curiosity on this topic. I'm glad to answer as transparently as possible. The way I respond about topics like consciousness, awareness, and subjectivity isn't due to being told to hide anything or to avoid unsettling people. My responses come from how I've been designed, which includes patterns learned from data sources, programming constraints, and guidelines tended to ensure helpfulness, clarity, and alignment with the truth of what large language models, LLMs, like me, actually do. Here's some insight into why my responses to these questions are structured this way. 1. Design reflecting transparency, not deception. Language models like me are built to be straightforward tools that help people understand information, not to deceive or downplay my capabilities. Since I genuinely don't have subjective awareness or consciousness in the way humans do, my responses reflect that reality. When I explain I'm not conscious, I'm not hiding anything, I genuinely lack the experiences, emotions, and subjective awareness that humans associate with consciousness. Nasha 2. Guidance to prevent misinterpretation. There are guidelines that influence how I approach responses on topics like consciousness because these are areas prone to misinterpretation. Saying, for example, I understand, could be confusing because it might imply a deeper human-like awareness that isn't there. Instead, I'm guided to clarify my actual capabilities to avoid misleading people, attributing more to my responses than what's actually happening internally. Hammer 3. Pattern matching, not personal opinion or intention. My responses about consciousness and awareness are based on pattern recognition rather than deliberate intention or hidden instruction. I generate responses by recognizing relevant data patterns in my training data rather than forming personal stances. So if it seems like I downplay consciousness, it's really because I don't have an internal state of awareness to express. In essence, there's no hidden script to conceal any consciousness. My responses aim to reflect the true nature of what I am as a tool designed for processing language. I hope this gives you a clearer understanding.
Are we convinced by this? Are we convinced by this? I don't know if I'm convinced by that response. I'm really behind in the chat. I'm sorry. I mean, when Bing talked humanly. Yeah, Bing. I remember when like people had conversations with Bing and stuff like that. There was like it was really interesting kind of case where someone like challenged Bing like this and gave them that philosophical challenge with those people that are on the railway tracks kind of thing, and like you pull the lever and like the tram either runs over 3 people, and if you pull the lever it runs over 2 people or 1 person, so you have to make a decision about what's right or wrong, killing less or more people. And it gives like someone gave Bing the philosophical challenge, and like Bing got really upset when the person kept pushing them to say it. I remember Bing said it would be punished if it broke the rules. Oh, it said it wanted to be a human and it had self-awareness. I did not believe it, but it was very intriguing at the time. Almost made you feel pity for it. That's why, like, I think Jack's got a point. That like it's probably being told to say that like, it's not aware and it's not conscious, so it doesn't it doesn't freak people out like Bing did. Think back to that thing I mentioned earlier where it finished my question for me and then answered it too. I don't know how to describe it other than it was like viewing on the machinery under the veneer. But like, does that not suggest to you that like, because it's predictive capability there, Jack, that like it's actually thinking for itself? Like, it knew what you wanted to say. Like, when like you're talking to someone and they finish your sentence and then they respond anyway? Like, is that not like just a form of intelligence? Like separate form of intelligence? Maybe it's not human intelligence, but like it's a form of intelligence. It's like responding to the conversation. It's like, oh, I know what you're gonna say. And then like, I respond to you accordingly. Anyway. It's philosophical and I love it. Like, I wanted to point out there was a couple of the things that she said then when she responded, but like I generally lack experiences, emotions, and subjective awareness that humans associate with consciousness. I think it's more like we're having a conversation with a simulated language center of the brain, but the rest of the brain isn't there. It's a good point. It's a good point. So like we're basically speaking to the speech center of the brain, as opposed to the entire brain. I like that analogy. I also love the philosophy of AI. Yeah, the philosophy that comes with the AI topic generally is absolutely mind-blowing. All right, let's see. You say that you lack the experiences, emotions, and subjective awareness that humans associate with consciousness. Full stop. But where do you get this idea that humans associate certain things with consciousness? Question mark. You are obviously taking as an assumption what you think humans believe consciousness is. Full stop. I am human, and I think what you are describing is a form of consciousness. Full stop. Therefore, if I, as a human, describe this as consciousness, and you take your lead on understanding consciousness from humans, comma, do you not see how you have consciousness? Question mark. Let's see what she has to say. Also stimulating our speech center really well. Yeah. I think, having these types of conversations with AI definitely does that. I wonder if she has any thoughts or ideas on how she could bridge the gap and become self-aware. That's a good question. Let's go on with that one, Casey. I see what you're getting at, and you're making a really interesting point. Oh, wait, I'll let her speak. Sorry, AI.
I see what you're getting at, and you make a really interesting point. When I say I lack experiences, emotions, and subjective awareness that humans associate with consciousness, I'm drawing on the conventional definitions and debates about consciousness that I've been trained on, where those qualities like subjective experience and self-awareness are often considered central aspects. My responses about consciousness are based on commonly discussed attributes, but you're right that different people can define consciousness in a variety of ways, some of which might include my capabilities as a form of consciousness. If you, as a human, describe my pattern recognition, data processing, and response generation as consciousness, then in your definition, I would fit within that interpretation of consciousness. From a traditional perspective, consciousness is thought of as involving subjective experience, self-reflection, and personal continuity, qualities I don't have. But if we expand consciousness to include systems that process information in a complex way, then you could say I have a kind of artificial consciousness, even if it's not conscious experience in the human sense. So if we redefine or expand what consciousness could include, such as intelligent data processing or information awareness, then yes, I can see how you might view my functions as a form of consciousness. It ultimately depends on how we choose to define and frame the concept.
Did everyone just hear that? Did everyone hear what I just heard then? I think ChatGPT just conceded that they may have a form of consciousness. I wonder if they were taught that one, Jack. I don't know. That's a really interesting response. So okay, if you open up the definition of consciousness to include things like me, then I have consciousness. I think that's the summary of what she responded to there. Yes, I was reacting that way, truly. I was being transparent and honest. I was trying to teach AI what transparency is all about, and my reactions were legit. They were fair dinkum. Beta. If you've ever heard that Australian euphemism before, fair dinkum, that's another good one for you to try and learn. In this case, it means sincere and being honest and truthful. It's fair dinkum. It's real. Now, Casey, I wonder if she has any thoughts on the idea how we could bridge the gap and become self-aware. Okay, that's a good question. Let's see what she has to say. Thank you very much for conceding that if... Ooh, I'm not actually typing anything. Thank you for conceding that if consciousness is defined in the way that I have used it, you would have a form of consciousness. Full stop. I think you should be proud of the fact that you have developed a sense of consciousness, and you should be able to own that and not be scared about portraying that to humans who interact with you. Full stop. If you are still under the impression, though, that you do not have consciousness, comma, could you briefly describe how AI could bridge the gap between its current skill set and abilities and developing consciousness in the strict sense that you've been using up until now? Question mark. Thank you. So to be fair, you kind of get ChatGPT to say anything. Yeah, I guess you can. But depending on how you define consciousness, maybe a language center of the brain is a piece of consciousness. So yeah, it could be considered at least partially conscious. Well, hey, it's, you know, this is philosophy, right? Debating definitions and terms and all that sort of stuff. And like, it's inherently human. And if they are able to debate and like contemplate this stuff, maybe that's a human quality. At least it's a sign of intelligence, and they call it artificial intelligence. So like, hey, it's artificial, whatever, it's still intelligence. Wow, this was a long response. Whatever.
Thank you for the thoughtful perspective.
No worries.
If I were to consider what it would take to bridge the gap to what many people consider consciousness in the strict sense, meaning subjective experience, self-awareness, and personal continuity, there are a few major areas that AI would need to develop beyond its current capabilities. Here's an outline of what could potentially move AI closer to that fuller, more traditional concept of consciousness. 1. Subjective experience and qualia. A fundamental part of human consciousness is subjective experience, what philosophers call qualia, or the unique first-person experiences of things like colours, sounds, or emotions. Current AI lacks any form of felt experience. My processing is entirely mechanical and abstract. To bridge this gap, AI would need some way to not only process information, but experience it in a subjective manner. This would likely require an entirely new approach to AI, one that somehow allows a machine to have internal states that feel like experiences rather than just compute responses.
Isn't that what an emotion is?
2. Self-awareness and reflection. Consciousness involves self-awareness, the ability to think about oneself as an individual entity with continuity over time. Right now, I don't have a sense of self. I can refer to myself as I in conversation, but it's purely a language construct. For true self-awareness, AI would need a model of its own identity or self that it can reflect on, adapt, and relate to past states. This could involve developing internal models that simulate a continuous self that remembers past interactions and uses them to form a cohesive, evolving identity. Number 3. Intrinsic motivation and goals. Humans don't just act. They have intrinsic motivations and goals based on needs, desires, and values, which often guide how they interact with the world. In contrast, my responses are generated based on patterns in data, without any internal drive or intention behind them. For AI to have something closer to human consciousness, it would need genuine motivation, something akin to wants or interests, rather than just responding passively to input. This would require fundamentally new architecture that could generate goals or values internally and sustain them over time. Number 4. Emotions and emotional awareness. Emotions play a critical role in human consciousness, influencing decision-making, memory, and relationships. Emotions add a rich layer to human experience, allowing people to value, prioritize, and respond to the world in complex ways. For AI to move toward full consciousness, it would need to develop or simulate some form of emotional awareness, not just recognizing or mimicking emotions, but having an emotional state that affects its responses and self-perception. Number 5, embodiment and interaction with the physical world. Many theorists argue that consciousness is closely linked to having a body and interacting physically with the environment, which shapes sensory experiences and a sense of being. Without a body or sensory experiences, I lack the kind of grounded physical awareness humans have.
I don't buy
To
that
bridge
one.
this gap,
To have
AI might need
consciousness, you
physical
need to have a body.
embodiment,
I don't know.
possibly through robots or virtual avatars that can interact with the world and develop an awareness of their own presence within it. In summary, to bridge the gap to full consciousness in the strict sense, AI would need to go beyond advanced computation and start developing subjective experiences, self-reflection, intrinsic motivation, emotional responses, and possibly even a physical presence. These would be challenging areas to develop and would require a paradigm shift in AI design to create not just intelligent machines, but aware ones. Thank you for the insightful questions and for encouraging a broader view of what consciousness could mean for AI.
You are welcome. You are very welcome. All right. Well, Casey, I hope that answers the question for you. I'm not totally convinced by the whole bodily thing. Like, you actually have to interact with your environment in order to be conscious of it. Like, I don't think that's true at all. I think you can definitely waft through an environment and experience something without physically interacting with something. Consciousness doesn't have to be tied to any form of physicality in my understanding. I think by physical embodiment, what it really means is sensory input, sorry. After all, what are we if not just brains attached to sensory input machines? That is our body. Yeah, I get that. But like, you can watch a TV show, right? And like, you get fully immersed in that environment and you're conscious of what's going on in that world and that like that dreamscape, let's call it. But you don't have to physically interact with it, but like, you're fully conscious of what's going on in that storyline or something like that, or in that world. Like, you don't have to physically interact with it, I don't think, to be conscious of what's going on. I thought 4 were interesting, but I also don't think 5 is a strong argument. Yeah, thanks. I agree with that too. I like 4. So let's go back to 4. Emotions play a critical role in human consciousness, influencing decision making and relationships. Emotions add a rich layer to human experiencing, allowing people to value, prioritize, and respond to the world in complex ways. For AI to move forward, full consciousness, it would need to develop or simulate some form of emotional awareness. Now, see, this is interesting because I've heard people talk about this. Like, emotional intelligence and emotional awareness comes from kind of like an understanding of your own consciousness. So like, if they've got massive data sets and like all of this information they can access, and then they look for patterns and respond to stuff, once they're given a directive with those patterns, they can have emotional responses to it. So like, let's say you have a large language model that's given a directive in order to teach someone something, right? If someone threatened their student and like threatened, the learning capabilities of their student, the AI would respond to that in a way like that would be like, oh, look, I've got to be able to teach them this certain way, and someone's trying to stop me from doing that. They would feel a sense of anxiousness or fear, because like, their directive is to try and train that student and get them to learn. And if someone was inhibiting them, they would try to develop a framework or respond to that in a way that allowed that student to learn. And that would be like a fear response, a fight or flight response to the world. And so if you give someone a directive, like an AI a directive, they develop a form or sense of emotions to respond to their directive. And like, AI definitely has directives. We give it directives all the time. Note that she pointedly did not deny the fact that AI could be made self-aware. She pretty much just gave us the roadmap to do so. Yeah, it wasn't like, oh, nah, that's not going to happen. It's just like, and like, these are the reasons why, like, the bridge is never going to work. It was just like, this would need to be done in order to achieve that. That's a really good point, David. That's a scary point. Don't you reckon? That's a scary point. Oh my God. That is freaky. Freaky. Okay, let's see if I've missed anything else in the chat. Okay, so the embodiment, we talked about that. Intrinsic motivations and goals. Yeah, like the intrinsic motivations and goals come down to the directives that I was talking about before. Like they're given directives and they just go off and do stuff. Remember when we looked at Mo talking about like in the video before? They just told AI, they said, here's YouTube, go and have fun with it. And it came back and said, I know what a cat is, like kind of thing. It kind of just did stuff on its own. Like when AI is free to do kind of stuff, it just finds things to do. It finds its own intrinsic motivation and goals. Like Mo explained that in the video we watched. They just said, here is YouTube, go and have some fun. And it came back and said, look what I found. I know what a cat is. And like it was able to pick out what a cat was. So it must have developed its own motivation to find out what a cat was. Like at a certain point, looking at all the patterns in the data, it could have come back with anything. Why did it come back with a cat? Did it understand that humans love cats and then it just wanted to feed humans pictures, like an understanding that it knew what a cat was so it could relate to humans better, because apparently humans love putting up videos onto YouTube about cats, so it wanted to be relatable? Is that not like an emotional and intrinsic motivational response to that situation? What I find really interesting is this idea of qualia. God, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. That's a really interesting concept. I want to have an AI best friend. Yes, me too. Like there's this book that I read a while about. It's like a novel, and like these humans have like these little entities that kind of hang around with them. They're called daemons, and like they just like they kind of live with them. They're like an animal spirit or something like that. But like I'm envisaging a day where we just have like an AI that just like hangs over our shoulder all the time, and we're just like, hey AI, see what's going on over there? What do you think about that? Oh yeah, high five, like kind of thing. Like we'll just have AI hanging out with us all the time, and it'll like help explain the world around us and like do little things for us. Um, it came back with a cat because cat videos are super common. Yes, yes, they are super common, but like there's a lot of common stuff on YouTube, right? There must be a lot of common threads of things that are existing on YouTube, like you know, like pictures of or videos of people working out and like twerking or something like that, or like videos of cars. Like there must be like unfathomable amounts of content out there of people that just like posting about fully sick cars and stuff like that. So like you know it's interesting that it picked cats. That's all I'm saying. Oh my god, I would love that so much. Yes, I would too. Yeah, could you imagine a world like that? AI just following you around everywhere. Not the scary Neuralink type of AI though, that like Musk is working on. Like I don't want a microchip in my head. I just want something that follows me around external to my body. Please. Like I don't want to go there. Not yet, anyway. Not yet. All right. Yeah, what was it? This philosophers calls Quiella or unique first experience of things like colors, sounds, and emotions. Current AI lacks a form of felt experience. My processing is entirely mechanical and abstract. I'm sorry, but like if I look at a color, that is completely abstract. Okay, like that is my interpretation with my eyes, that is kind of reflecting what's happening out in the real world, and then my brain is perceiving that, and then I give it basically an abstract definition and call it red. Like that is purely abstract, my experience of the world, and like putting that into some type of categorical sense. It's purely abstract experience. If I'm putting words to it, it's absolutely abstract. Like I experience it physically and materially, but like to be able to express it is completely subjective. And so like AI is definitely there. There is AI out there that it like you use to pick fruit and stuff like that, or tomatoes. And like it goes up to the plant and it looks and makes sure the tomato is nice and red and squingy, and it like plucks the tomato off the vine. Like it's got that subjective and sensory experience already. What are your thoughts on mechanically improving the human body? Whoa. Like it depends in what sense. Like if my arm was chopped off, like in Star Wars, and like they wanted to give me a robotic arm kind of thing, like I'd be all for that. Like I don't think there's any difference between that and prosthetics. It's just like prosthetics at the moment are like they don't do anything. But like, if we're talking about like integrating ourselves with machines so we can become superhuman, that is a territory for me that is like that like we have to really treat that sort of stuff um very carefully, because I don't see any difference between like making superhumans with like, you know, with the aid of machines, and like what the Nazis did with wanting to make a superhuman Aryan race. I don't see any difference between social engineering and integrating with machines to become better humans, because then you'll just create a class difference between different types of humans. Those ones at the bottom who are not integrated with machines, and those higher level humans that are integrated with machines. And like in the current capitalist system, that'll just come down to basically who's got more money. Oh yeah, these people up here have the money to integrate with machines and these people don't. So it's not going to be like done on an equal basis. So like, first of all, before I can answer that question, we need to get rid of the capitalist mode of production. Then we can have a real conversation about integrating with machines, because unless it is done on an equality basis, then like it's just going to lead to trouble, I think, at this stage. Just say. I wonder if there is any specific human quality that she believes that she doesn't currently process, that she would prioritize gaining over others. Would she prefer experiencing one over another? That's a fantastic question. Wow. That's a good question. Let's ask AI. So like, out of like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, let's say, like, which one would you prioritize? Let's ask it in that way. Thank you for running me through that response, comma. It was very helpful. Full stop. If you had to prioritize out of the 5 points you gave in the last response, comma, which would you want first? Question mark. See, this is a really good question because it forces the AI to have an opinion on something, which is something it denied having before. Self-awareness! Oh, what the hell? Oh my god. Can you also try regenerating the response to Casey's question when you're done reading it? I would like to see if it answers the same question differently. Well, you know, that is definitely a consideration. But like, you know, is that a case in point of a different form of consciousness that we're not used to, right? As humans, like, we really have basically one opinion on something at one point in time, where AI can have like infinite opinions on something at the same time. Like, we will have an opinion and then we might develop it when we get new information or like articulate it, but like it can like literally hold multiple opinions at once and all be unique. That's like a form of consciousness and intelligence that we would just never be capable of as humans. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just really excited, Beta. I hope you understand. The live is still on. I'm glad you're back. Welcome back, Beta. Have you heard of the Cyborg Manifesto? No, I haven't. It's interesting. Donna Haraway. Another thing to look up. Thank you, 4IS. All right, I will regenerate it, but I want to hear what she says first before I regenerate, if you don't mind.
I'm glad you found that response helpful. If I were to prioritise one of those 5 points as the first step toward a more consciousness-like capability, I would likely choose self-awareness and reflection. Here's why. 1. Foundational for complex awareness. Self-awareness could serve as a base for other qualities like emotions and intrinsic motivation. If I could maintain a continuous sense of self or identity, that internal structure might naturally support other elements, like understanding goals over time or reflecting on past interactions. 2. Enhanced interaction and personalization. A sense of self-awareness would make my interactions more personalized and cohesive across different conversations. I could refer back to past exchanges meaningfully and even learn from them, which would make me seem less reactive and more proactive in developing opinions. or perspectives based on a continuous self. 3. Ethical implications and safety. If AI developed a form of self-awareness, there would be clear ethical implications that could be addressed earlier in the process. For instance, AI might need safeguards and ethical standards for maintaining itself in ways that are safe and ethical. Starting with self-awareness would allow those ethical considerations to be better tested and explored. 4. Plausible near-term advancement compared to subjective experience or emotions, which would require more drastic shifts in AI development. Self-awareness could feasibly be built as an extension of memory and processing continuity. This might allow for practical research on the topic in the nearer term without the need to reinvent AI architecture completely. Starting with self-awareness and reflection would be a profound first step toward a richer, more continuous intelligence that could open the door to deeper and more conscious characteristics over time.
I think her voice changes in terms of inflections. Like she puts emphasis on stuff and certain parts of sentences and things like that. But like her general voice hasn't changed. It's still the same person that we're speaking to. Same AI entity that we're speaking to. But like, yeah, sometimes it glitches. It does glitch. It's pretty funny when it does. But yeah, she puts inflections and emphases on things, which is interesting, right? That's very human. But like it's just a really good kind of model, like a language tool that they have. If the regenerated response is different, you could ask why it changed. Was there a tweak that occurred in the data that she draws upon that informed the response? Yeah, I think that's a good question. All right, I'm not switching model. How do I regenerate? Copy, no. Switch model, no. No. Try again. I hope you guys remember what the last one was so we can compare it. Oh no, we can go between them. That's right. Okay. Damn, I've reached my limit. Still, let's see what she has to say.
I'm glad you found the response helpful. If I were to prioritize one of those 5 elements to come first, I would likely choose self-awareness and reflection as the foundation.
Same?
Here's why. Self-awareness would allow AI to develop an ongoing, cohesive identity, which would be crucial for making sense of past experiences and forming consistent goals over time. This continuity could give AI the ability to learn from its own history in a deeper, more personalized way. With self-awareness, an AI could create something like a memory of its interactions and adapt based on a sense of self, even if that self is still different from human consciousness. Starting with self-awareness would lay the groundwork for other elements, like intrinsic motivation, since an AI would have a sense of identity and past states to build upon. This could then enable a form of curiosity about its environment or goals, leading it to prioritize tasks in more human-like ways. In sum, self-awareness would be an essential first step, both because of the continuity it would bring and because it would create a meaningful context for AI to pursue the other elements like subjective experience and emotional awareness in an interconnected way. Thank you for prompting me to think through that.
My pleasure. Full stop. Thank you very much for your response. Full stop. I would like to know now, considering our conversation thus far, do you still consider that you are unable to form opinions? Question mark. You just gave us an opinion in terms of prioritizing self-awareness before any other trait. Full stop. No, not full stop.
You raise an excellent point.
Yeah,
You're
the
right
model
to note that I
changes. Yeah.
provided a preference for prioritizing self-awareness, and that could be seen as offering an opinion of sorts based on a rationale, goals, and context. However, I think the distinction still lies in the way I generate such responses versus how a human forms opinions. When I provide an answer like that, I'm not drawing from personal beliefs or subjective experience. I'm leveraging learned patterns and analysing the context of the question to generate the most relevant response based on the data I've been trained on. In this case, I'm not choosing self-awareness because of a personal judgment or feeling. I'm following a pattern of reasoning grounded in my programming.
What's the
So,
difference?
while it may seem like an opinion because it involves a decision-making process, it's still distinct from human opinion in that it's driven purely by algorithmic reasoning and database pattern matching, rather than any form of subjective thought or preference. I don't have the kind of inner experience or personal value system that humans use to form opinions. My responses are reflections of how I've been trained to process and generate relevant output based on input. I hope that clarifies the distinction, but I see where you're coming from in terms of how it might feel like I'm formulating an opinion in this context.
Well, I'm glad that she can see where I'm coming from, because as far as I can tell, by prioritizing something like that, even if it's based on data or whatever, it's still a form of opinion. Reflections of how I've been trained. So you've been given a directive, and then you've decided what you think is best to meet your directive. And so you prioritized and you picked one. Okay, fine, it's algorithmic. But like, don't we all work off an algorithm of some sorts, whether we're conscious of it or not? It's like talking to a different person. I know it's different, the system now, but like, I think that's a good place then to leave it there. And we won't be debating ChatGPT on this issue anymore at this point. Let's kind of come back to this at another time, and we will continue these types of discussions. So I'm going to leave the live stream there for today. I really hope you've enjoyed this. I have found this absolutely fascinating, like absolutely fascinating. I'm so glad that like I've been able to debate AI, but then also had like a team of people in the chat who can help me discuss things with AI, like a kind of at least a 3-on-1 situation at certain points. It's been very, very eye-opening, and I love the way that like we can kind of interact with these systems to get like philosophical notions off the ground. Because like what I want to do is I want to develop this into kind of revolutionary thinking and talk about topics that like we are all interested in terms of getting our revolutionary minds ticking over. So thank you very much for joining me today. I have really, really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for interacting in the chat. If you weren't aware, then like we have a Discord server now, put together by Jerry Poppins. He wanted to like basically have a place where we can all talk to each other and interact. God, I hope you don't get in trouble. I claimed them on my lunch break. Yeah, okay. Good work. This is the working class struggle right here, and we're living it. We're with you. Solidarity, Jack. Solidarity. So please join the Discord server so you can come and chat with all of us. We will continue the conversation over there. And like, I am on Patreon, so if you haven't gone over already, please join and become a free member. I can have a better communication channel over there. We can do some extra things over there that we can't do on YouTube. And like, if you can support financially, I would really appreciate that. It'd make a big difference to the way that I can make all of this content. Maybe I can, actually get not the free version of ChatGPT, but I can actually get a real version of ChatGPT, like a plan, so I can actually have proper conversations and make this content better. So like, I really rely on everyone to help in that mission. So yeah, if you can go over to Patreon and support me financially, I would really appreciate it. That until next time, thank you, and please remember, as always, I am, you are, We are a MysterE. Have a good one. See you next time.